Hello and welcome to Tales from the Unknown. My name is Zach, and today I invite you to join me as we take to the stars in search of a new homeworld. And to accomplish that quest, we will be playing A Perfect Rock by Nick Gralewicz of Deep Dark Games. And yeah, this entire journey is going to take a couple of episodes, with this first episode solely focusing on what you need to know about A Perfect Rock to play it, what you need to play it, and, doing the character creation, creating that original homeworld, which is destroyed now, and creating the explorer that we will be playing. So without any more delay, it is time to boldly go, and probably not use that because it's copyrighted. So it's time to head to the stars, or something like that, Before we get into setup and before we get into creating our explorer and, our dying homeworld, I think it is a good idea to really define what exactly is a perfect rock. Well, in the simplest of terms, a perfect rock is a GM-less tabletop game in which you take on the role of an explorer leading the last survivors of your dying homeworld to find a new home, to find that perfect rock, if you will. It is a game that is going to have us jumping between solar systems, looking at different planets that are represented by different rocks. That is actually one of the cool mechanics of this game, is you actually use real rocks to help define those planets, to find meaning in different aspects of the planet. I have some rocks with me, but I'm actually going to use this one page in the book itself to create my planets, because these rocks rule. They're wonderful, and I really like this table, so we'll be using this. Along with exploring planets, the game also asks you to meditate on what it means to be traveling on this spaceship, asks you to really get into your explorer's mind, what they are thinking, what they are seeing. It asks you to set up scenes on these planets, on your travels, and it creates this narrative in which you are this person trying to find a new home in this weird and dangerous and strange solar galaxy, if you will. So with that being said, let's talk about what we need to actually play this game. So first and foremost, obviously, we need the game itself. I have a physical copy that I kickstarted last year. It is a beautiful book. It really, really is. I'm super excited to use it. There's also a PDF version that you might be able to pick up now. I hope you can. This might be a future Zach situation coming to yell at me about if you can pick it up or not. But yeah, so the book itself, along with that, you need the explorer's notes, which is like our character sheet. It's also going to keep track of different details about our home planet, or our original home planet, along with any keepsakes and gear that we pick up while we are going from planet to planet. We also need the star map. I have the printer-friendly version right here. I am guessing I have put the really beautifully crafted star map on the screen right now. Along with that, rocks. Like I said, I'm using the table, but I do have some rocks near me. We need some six-sided die, because there are random tables we need to roll on. Along with that, because I am playing this solo, I need a journal, because my memory is as good as, well, rocks. And I also have some writing utensils, and that is everything we need. So we have to decide on our length of play. The game recommends that you check out between 2 to 5 stars, each star having multiple planets to check out. I'm going to go with 3. I feel like that is the sweet spot for what I am trying to accomplish and for our goal here. Then yeah, there is no really other thoughts on why I chose that. Just 3 seems, like the sweet spot. Pretty easy, right? So let's get to actually creating our home planet and our explorer. We create our home planet first because it is going to inform who our explorer is, so let's do that. The first thing we need to do for character creation is creating our home planet. There's a list here that we are going to go through, and the first thing it says to do is read page 6 out loud. Your home planet. Your planet was the only home your species has ever known. A decade ago, 2 uncrewed probes, Horizon 1 and Horizon 2, were launched into deep space, one toward fading alien signals, the other into the magical Aetheric Nebula. 1 year ago, the first crewed interstellar starship, the Arclight, set out to explore distant planets and establish the first outpost beyond your solar system. Communications with the Arclight were recently lost, and its fate is unknown. A second starship was recently completed. Before it could begin its journey, your planet was suddenly destroyed. Now you and the sole survivors of your people are aboard that second starship and in need of a new home. Like I said before, we are playing explorers, taking these survivors, trying to find that perfect rock. We've read that out loud. We know the stakes. It is time to now answer questions, envision your home and starship, select an option or make up your own, and record the details in your explorer's notes. So, in front of me, I have a bunch of questions. Some of these questions have random tables that we're going to roll on, and we're going to just, flesh out what our home planet is right now. So, what species are you? And there's 6 different options. I am going to roll a d6 because that's pretty fun. Let's see, what species are we? 5. We're mouse. We're mouse people. Hell yeah, we're mice people. I love that. What was your home planet called? Another d6 roll. 3. The Nexus. I'm like thinking we're like super intelligent mice. Well, obviously we have space flight, but like my mind is thinking, I don't know what my mind is thinking. The Nexus, that feels like very sci-fi, very like almost like robotic and cybernetic, like the Nexus. Like, what are we? Are we super hive mind mice? Were we, escaped research mice that maybe grew? This says that we never left, that our home planet has only ever been our home planet. Maybe that was too done, that like idea that like, oh, we're escaped mice trying, yeah, never mind. Okay, so we're mice. We're a species of mice. We're a species of mice. We are from the home planet, the Nexus. The next question is your home fantastical, realistic, or somewhere between? I think we have this graph right here that has like 5 different nodes. I think we aren't full fantastical, but I think we're more fantastical than realistic. I'm gonna mark not the farthest fantastical node, but the one next to it. I think this is a pretty, we're called the Nexus. That's pretty fantastical, and then are we low tech or high tech? Easy, super high tech. Oh, actually, maybe not. I think that's like my gut reaction, to be like, yeah, we're super high tech. But what about like, I think somewhere towards the middle. I'm not gonna lie, I have a picture in my head right now of kind of like 80s, 90s tech with these mice people. I don't know. I think I also have like a lot of like Soviet like cosmonaut like imagery also floating around in my head right now. So I kind of like the idea that like maybe we're not low tech, maybe we're not high tech, maybe we are kind of using like retro futurism style designs in this. As we are trying to go out and find this new home world. I don't know, but like it's a solo game. You gotta just explore those ideas. We were destroyed by, let's roll a d6 on this. I just threw that dice very far. Planetary collapse. Ooh. What were we doing on that planet to create planetary collapse? I feel like that's a very man-made or mouse-made situation. There are some other options here called like supernova or asteroid or discovered alien object, which like feel like out of our control, but planetary collapse feels like might be our species' fault. So that is something we are definitely going to play off of. Our starship name, let's once again roll a d6. We got 4, the Dark Helix. So with the name the Dark Helix and like the Nexus and planetary collapse, like I think we are like a civilization that maybe pushes science or pushed science way too far. These are very like, we are scientists' names, the Nexus, the Dark Helix. So maybe that's what caused the planetary collapse, is like the mice of this planet pushed their technology too far, which eventually led to this disaster. And the last thing we need to determine is your starship small with a tight-knit crew, or a massive generation ship, or somewhere between? I think it's going to be between. We have a bunch of survivors on board, not like a colony ship or anything like that, but enough to, create a new homeworld. It is manned by our explorer, and yeah, so that is our home planet. We have the Nexus, destroyed by planetary collapse, somewhat fantastical in nature. Along with that, it is a place between low tech and high tech, we have determined that this is a civilization that pushed science a little too far. Not a little too far. I guess if you destroy your planet, that's not a little too far. They pushed science too far. Those monsters, or something like that. And now we are on this ship, the Dark Helix, heading into space, trying to find a new home world. Let us create our explorer. So, read the section above aloud. You are an explorer above the starship. Due to your training, lineage, or an administrative error, you have been tasked with surveying planets in search of a new home. You will acquire belongings such as exploration gear and new keepsakes collected from each planet. Use these belongings to define your explorer's interest and include them when you envision scenes on that ship or planet, or planets. Record your information and belongings in your explorer notes, which I am doing that. Okay, so what is your name and what do you look like? What is a good mouse name? I don't know, but I'm staring. So a little behind the scenes, I'm staring at a bookshelf like that takes up a wall in front of my computer, and the Norton Shakespeare book is calling to me right now. So I think we're gonna just go with like Norton. Like, I know it's not like the most exciting and process for finding a name, but I kind of like an explorer mouse named Norton. So our name is Norton. What do we look like? Maybe an older mouse, you know, maybe who was there throughout. Oh no, maybe let's play like a younger mouse. I'm gonna say these mice are age like a humanoid, a human, just so I can keep it simple. I'm gonna say we are like a 20, 30 something mouse, younger, maybe was not happy with the way things were being run on the Nexus because science was being pushed too far, and now we are destined to try to find a new world. So what do you look like? I'm thinking like maybe tannish fur. I really like a tannish fur mouse. We're gonna say tannish fur. Tannish fur, cute little nose. Like I said earlier, I'm like, for some reason, like old school cosmonaut, old school like NASA spacesuit. I think really bulky, not like kind of going back to our low tech, high tech in between, like 80s, 90s technology. I'm like also picturing in my mind this like portrait that you would see like in NASA of like a very proud mouse sitting like this, little 3/4 turned, looking into the camera. No, looking off into the stars. And that's Norton. That's our guy. What gear do you use to survey planets? Draw it in the gear section of your explorer's note. This is another D6 roll. 3. We got a mech suit. A mech suit. Holy, okay. What if the mech suit is like a giant mouse ball that like they run around in? I mean, you could survive planets in that. I feel like a lot of rovers and stuff use very spherical designs to like traverse like wild landscapes. So like, what if this was just like a giant mouse ball that like shuttle like that? Mech suit doesn't have to mean like a Gundam, I don't think. I'm also thinking of like the transport pods from Dragon Ball Z, you know, that the Saiyans appear from. Maybe it's like made out of a material that you can see out of, you can move through terrain with ease. I don't know, I love that. I think it's kind of really fun and also kind of exciting. So yeah, we have this strange mechanized mouse ball that is going to allow us to survey planets. The next question is, how was your home planet perfect for you? That's a really good question. I think this is going to define a lot about what and who Norton is. Before I said Norton was younger, 20s, 30s, didn't really like how far science was being pushed, maybe didn't like the larger corporations, larger councils, larger factions within the Nexus, but I think it also was safe. He could just hide away in his lab and just work on whatever science he was working on. And then I'm gonna leave that vague right now so we can determine that later. And I think that's what made it perfect, is he didn't really have to go out much. And I think this is way out of his comfort zone. He is a scientist, damn it. And he just liked living in his small housing unit attached to his lab, and now that the planet is destroyed, he's the only one who can pilot this ship and save his people, and that is a big burden and probably like the complete opposite of what Norton actually wants. So that's how his home planet was perfect for you. It wasn't the perfect world, but it was the perfect world for Norton, in which he could just, focus on things that he could control in a world that was completely out of control. What keepsake did you take from your home planet? Draw it in the keepsakes section of your explorer's note. After everyone has envisioned their explorer, begin the search for the new home. So, what is a good keepsake for Norton? That is a very good question. We have determined that he liked to stay isolated. He liked to stay by himself. What if it's a plant? We're kind of like painting Norton as an introvert. Maybe there is a softer side to him in which he has this potted plant that he's been taking care of. He is very isolated, but he still has care. He still cares for living things. He still has compassion, and I think that keepsake might lead to some other stuff. If he is willing to care for this thing, maybe that is why he was selected to find this new planet. And maybe it's we were kind of being vague with the science before. Maybe he is a biologist. Maybe he is someone who is practiced in fauna and flora and other biological things. And maybe he's had this plant for a very long time. Maybe when he was a kid, he took care of this plant, which created this interest in, being a scientist. So I'm going to draw a cute little potted plant in my keepsakes real quick. All right, so the last thing we're doing in this episode, and the last thing we need to do, is begin the search for our new home, which how this works, I'm going to get into more detail when we start our next episode, because it is the gameplay loop of going and trying to find a new planet. But there is a question I want to answer before we end this episode. So as we are leaving Sol, which is our solar system, as the Dark Helix is leaving home, leaving the place Norton and his fellow mice called home, he is going to look out his window, and the game asks a question. What details do you notice when you look back at the destroyed planet? So we have Norton leaving the Nexus on the Dark Helix. He is piloting the ship. I think he looks out the side window. I think at this point, the Nexus is some type of neon green, maybe some type of jade color. As he looks out and as they go farther away, I think when you first are leaving the Nexus, like I said, it is this place that pushed science too far. There's probably factories, mega cities everywhere. I think for the first time, as Norton looks back, he sees his planet. Those mouse-made structures, the pollution fades away until it is just this perfect jade dot. This perfect planet that from afar looks welcoming and wonderful and natural, but he's never witnessed it like that before. He's always been in those mega cities. He's always been in that polluted air. And now that he's far away, he sees the beauty of what the Nexus was. And then he looks forward as he leaves this sun, this solar system. And yeah, that is the first episode. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any thoughts or comments, please let me know down below. And yeah, next time I see you all, we are going to be exploring some solar systems, some suns, as we try to find this perfect rock for Norton and his fellow mice people. And I'm super excited. So, until next time, be excellent to each other.